Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's video because we are going to be ranking my entire bronzer collection. I recently posted a ranking my entire foundation collection, and now we are moving on to my bronzer category. I do have 18 different bronzers currently in my collection that I'm going to be ranking for you guys today, so I hope that you are excited. I decided to leave out any sort of contour products and just solely focus on the bronzers. I had a tough enough time as it was ranking my bronzers, so I don't want to throw contour into the mix as well. I believe the first person that I saw do this style video was Kelsey Brianna J, and I know Kelly Gooch has recently posted quite a few videos like this as well, so I'll leave both their channels as well as some of their videos down below. And I know a lot of people are posting videos similar to this now, so you can just search ranking my blank collection and I'm sure you'll find other videos like this in case you want to see more. So if you are interested in seeing me rank my entire bronzer collection, then stay tuned. But first, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I hope you'll consider doing so before you go. I post videos every single Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Pretty much every single bronzer that I currently have in my collection, I do like. I do have two bronzers currently going in my chopping block, one of which I'm going to be mentioning here in just a second at the bottom. And I'm still trying to decide if I really want to keep those two bronzers. Well, one, I've kind of decided on one of them. I'm trying to decide if I want to keep this bronzer in particular in my collection, and I'll explain why when I get to it. But for the most part, I really do love all of my bronzers. Bronzers is one of the steps like in my makeup routine that I enjoy the most for some reason. I just really enjoy bronzer. I like what it does for my skin. I like the dimension that it adds to the face. So for me, I just personally really love the bronzer category. So yeah, it was a little bit difficult to make some of these decisions, but we're going to start at the bottom, and this is the one I can't decide whether or not I want to keep in my collection. This is the Wet n Wild Color Icon bronzer in Ticket to Brazil. I know a lot of people really do enjoy this bronzer. For me, I feel like it comes off a little bit orangey, which I'll mention another Wet n Wild bronzer here in a couple minutes that I also feel comes off a little bit orangey, so maybe it's just a Wet n Wild thing, but I'm not sure that this just works for my skin tone in a way that's flattering. So still trying to decide about this, but this would be my least favorite bronzer in my collection. And actually the next bronzer is another bronzer from Wet n Wild. This is another Color Icon bronzer, and this is in Bronze Dynasty. Now this released with their Fire and Ice collection, so I don't even think you can still get this bronzer in particular. It looks a lot darker in comparison to the Ticket to Brazil, and while it is, I still feel like it comes off pretty orangey, and it really doesn't come off that dark on the skin. This one I believe I had in my first episode or round of shopping block, and I decided to keep it. This one I'll keep for a while longer. We'll see if I do like a makeup collection declutter at the end of the year or at the beginning of next year, whether or not this will stay, just because my top bronzers I just love so much. Some of these I really don't think need to stay in my collection, but this would be number 17. Number 16 is a Marc Jacobs bronzer actually, and this is the Tantric bronzer, and I ended up purchasing this when the Tantastic bronzer sold out when it first launched, when we didn't know it was going to come back and be a permanent thing. So I was really devastated that I couldn't get the Tantastic bronzer. I ended up purchasing this one, and I really did enjoy this bronzer for a long time. And actually, as we reach the summer months, this may be a bronzer that I reach for more often, but I find it to be just a hair too dark for my skin when I'm at like my fairest or like my normal skin tone. So I can't really get away with this one, at least as a bronzer in the wintertime, just because it is a little bit too dark for my skin. I still really do enjoy this bronzer. I considered decluttering this because now I do have the Tantastic bronzer, but I just couldn't get myself to declutter it. I do love the luxurious packaging on this, and I still do reach for it from time to time. It just is not my fave, or not like in my highest ranking bronzers in my collection. Next up is another bronzer that like I've considered decluttering so many times, but then there's days where I'm like, this is like one of my favorite bronzers, and this is the Milani Baked bronzer in the shade 4 Glow. I'm just gonna actually toss that brush. So this is what the Milani bronzer looks like, and I feel like the reason that there's times where I feel like I don't need this bronzer in my collection is because a lot of times I do prefer a more mattified or a matte bronzer. And this is definitely a glowy bronzer, but lately I've been kind of feeling more of like just glowy cheeks and just a glowy vibe overall on the face. So I actually did layer this over one of my darker bronzers today, which is why I'm still not sure I'm feeling this. And I forgot how much I really do love reaching for this bronzer in the spring summertime. So I'm glad that this is stuck around, and I'm going to continue to hold on to this throughout my declutters, I have a feeling, because I do prefer to have a glowy bronzer in my collection. This is one of my only glowy bronzers in my collection. The reason it's ranking lower at number 15 just because it's not a bronzer I reach for year round, so I don't get the most use out of it, but when I am looking for a glowy bronzer, I really do enjoy reaching for this one. Next on my list at number 14 is the Essence Sun Club Matte Bronzing Powder. This is the light version. I think they have 2 different shades. Oh, I never realized that kind of smells like sunscreen. I do enjoy this bronzer quite a bit. I just feel like this one pulls a hair orange on me as well. I really like the formula of this, and you really can't beat the price. I can't remember what I paid for this, but it was like at most $5.99. I think it was even cheaper than that, so you truly cannot beat the price for how much product you're getting. I just have to be careful at times because, again, this can pull a little bit orange, and I'm not the biggest fan of orange bronzers personally, but it is a really good formula. I prefer reaching for this kind of as we get out of the summer months and into the fall, just because I feel like my skin's starting to lighten up a little bit, but it still gives like a summery sort of vibe when I wear this bronzer, so just a little bit orange. Next up is the other bronzer that is currently going in my chopping block. Is the ABH bronzer, and I have mine in the shade Tawny, and I have decided that I'm going to keep this bronzer. The reason it was in my chopping block is because it used to be a favorite of mine, but I just am not reaching for it like I used to. And the reason is because this is a little bit more red toned, and it is a darker bronzer, so I do have to be a little bit darker. I can't be super fair when I'm reaching for this, so I'm limited in the time that I can use this, but it is a super soft and buttery formula. I really do enjoy this formula overall. I think it blends super beautifully, super easily, so enjoy the formula. It's just not the best shade match for me. Another bronzer that I really can only reach for in the summertime because it is a little bit dark is the Balm Desert bronzer. Looks like this. This actually is what I have on my cheeks today. Just still a little bit light for this bronzer, but it had been a while since I had used this, so I wanted to decide if I liked this one better than the ABH one, and for the most part I feel like I reached for this one more than the ABH, which is why I ranked it one above the ABH. But again, I really can only wear this in the spring or summertime when I am a little bit more tan, so that's why it's ranking kind of in the middle. A good formula. This is a pretty firmly pressed bronzer, so I feel like this one is one that would be harder to pan, harder to get through, but an easy one for travel. I know I took this with me to Las Vegas last year and I didn't have any problems obviously with it cracking on me. I considered bringing it again this year, but I think I'm bringing a couple different bronzers, but this is still a really good formula. This kind of ranks in the mid-range as far as price is concerned, so not drugstore price, but not super expensive. A really nice bronzer, and one that, again, I do enjoy reaching for in the summertime. Next up, I have this little mini Too Faced Chocolate Soleil bronzer, and I actually recently just tried this for the first time a few months ago. I must have got this in some sort of Ipsy or something, and it just always kind of sat there, because for me with bronzers, when I know I like a bronzer and I can trust the shade's good for me, I just always reach for the bronzers I know I can trust. And this one was one that I had not tried. Now this is a nice matte, more cool toned bronzer. I think this is the for medium deep. I was gonna say, I do feel like this one is a little bit darker too, so I can get away with it more when I'm tan, and I'm excited to try it more this summer when I'm tan. This one I feel like I could get away with as a contour, again, because it is more of a deeper cool toned shade. So I have tried it as a contour as well, and I do enjoy it that way. Again, this one just kind of ranks in the middle. Don't reach for it all the time, but I do think it is a beautiful bronzer. Alright you guys, we are into the top 10. Coming in at number 10, I have my L'Oreal True Match Lumi Bronze It. And this one is another one that's a little bit more glowy, but this one leans a little bit cooler than the Milani one, actually a lot more cooler. This is one that the first few times I tried it, I wasn't sure I liked it. In fact, I considered returning it, but I kept trying it, and I have since come to really enjoy this. This is one that I feel like I can still get away with in the wintertime, because again, it is a little bit more cool toned and it is lighter. This is in the shade 1 Light. I don't know how many different shades that they have, but This is the lightest one. I'm excited to continue to play with this. I think this is one that will be more of like a fall winter sort of bronzer for me, just because it is a little bit lighter, but I've really been enjoying this lately. All right, coming in at number 9 is my Tarte Park Avenue Princess bronzer. This is another one that I got in an Ipsy. Took me a while to try, but when I tried this, I absolutely fell in love with this bronzer. I pretty much exclusively wore this in the month of February, and I just loved the way that it looked on my skin. This is one that I do think I'm going to pack with me on vacation to Vegas because, again, it is a very firmly pressed bronzer. I don't think I'll have any issues traveling with it, and I just love the way that this one looks on the skin. I don't know if this has... It doesn't have like a sparkle in it, but it almost gives more of like a sheen. I don't feel like it's a totally matte bronzer, so I just think this is beautiful. Love the way that it looks on my skin, love the finish that it gives, and this is one that I definitely would consider picking up in a full size or even like another mini when I finish this. Coming in at number 8 is my number 7 bronzer. I should have ranked this 7. This is in the shade Golden Sand, and this is a lighter bronzer, but I just love, again, the way that this looks on the skin, the finish that it gives. It just gives a nice light bronze to the skin. It's not going to be something super intense, but on days that I'm going for more of a softer look, or if I'm going to the gym and just want to pop a little bit of bronzer on but don't want to look like too extra, I will go in with this bronzer. This is another one that I really like to pull out in the springtime as we're transitioning from like winter to spring, because it is a lighter bronzer. I can get away with it with my light skin before I start to get a real tan, but it's just such a beautiful bronzer. I don't know, I think these are still available. I know number 7 has discontinued quite a few products, but I think that their bronzers are something that they've continued to carry, and if so, I believe this was $12.99. I definitely think it's worth it. I think it's a beautiful bronzer. I know they carry at least 3 to 5 shades, so hopefully there's one that you could find, make work for yourself, but really do enjoy this if you can find a shade for you. Coming in at number 7 is my Hoola Benefit bronzer, and this for me I typically use more as a contour. As you can tell, I have significant pan going, and honestly I should just declutter this one at this point because I do have one of the Benefit cheek palettes where I have a full-size Hoola bronzer in there, and this one is like getting hard to use, but I'm determined to finish this. I really am. Actually, I just realized I should have included this in a project pan that I'm currently doing, and I might hold on to this to do just that. Anyway, really beautiful bronzer. I think you can get away with this as a contour if you have a lighter skin, and it's a pretty universal bronzer shade. I feel like quite a few different skin tones. I feel like you can get away with this as a bronzer in like a variety of different skin tones, whereas some bronzers I feel like just don't cater to as many skin tones. This is one that I feel like will suit quite a few. I do have mine. I know they have like a Hoola Light. This is just like the Hoola Original. Really enjoy this one. Had I done this video last year, I probably would have ranked this higher, but there are just some other bronzers that have my heart a little bit more than this one, but this is still a staple and one that I would probably want to always have in my bronzer collection. Next up, this is a newer bronzer to me, but I've really been enjoying this, and this kind of reminds me a little bit of the number 7 bronzer. So coming in at number 6 is my NARS Laguna bronzer, and this is the sun washed one. So this one, it takes a little bit more building up to do. It's a little bit lighter, but the reason that I like that is because sometimes I can get a little bit heavy-handed with my bronzer. So to make sure that I don't go overboard, this one's really nice. It's buildable, but again, you can build it from like a super light, just like wash of bronze to something more intense. So I really enjoy this. This is another one that's super firmly pressed, so it would probably be a really good one to travel with, and I'm really happy that I picked this up. I think I got this in February, but I just recently started trying it, which is another reason it's not ranking up even higher, even though its other contenders were like my top 5 bronzers, you guys. But so far I've really been enjoying this, and if I ever finish this up, which I feel like this would be a really hard bronzer to pan, but if I ever did finish this at this point in time, I definitely would pick up another one. All right, you guys, we are into the top 5. This one I almost put at number 4, but I had to put this below what ended up being number 4. This is the Urban Decay Beached Bronzer, and I really love this bronzer, you guys. I had considered picking this up. This is in the shade Sun Kissed, by the way. I had considered picking this up so many times and just talked myself out of it every single time, but I'm happy that I finally decided to pick this up. This is kind of like a mid-tone bronzer for me. Like, it's not super light, but it's not my darkest, obviously. It is a little bit on the orangey side, but I just love this bronzer, especially in the like summer to fall time is when I wore it all the time last year. I just think it gives a beautiful color to the skin. It's like such a beautiful wash of like sun-kissed magic that I just absolutely love this bronzer. This was like one of the bronzers that I was like exclusively reaching for like a couple months, and I had to like tell myself to rotate other bronzers in my collection because I was using this so much. So really enjoy this bronzer. It's been a little bit since I used this, but I think I'm going to include this in my next Shop My Stash, or at least that is what my current plan is, and I'm so excited to get some more use out of this. Coming in at number 4 is the Physicians Formula Mira Butter Bronzer. As you can tell, mine has gotten a ton of love. I actually love the way that this smells because it just smells like summer. It smells like just summer heaven. Coconut sunscreen mix. This is one that I will always have in my collection. When I finish this, I'll definitely buy another one. Even if I've had 20 bronzers in my collection, which I'm really close to, even if I had like, you know, 100 bronzers in my collection, I would always have this one in my collection because I reach for this so often. This has been in quite a few project pans, but even when it's not in a project pan, I find myself reaching for this because I know this is a bronzer that I know I can trust. I wear this to work all the time because I know I'm going to put it on, it's going to look good. I don't have to worry about it pulling too orange. I don't have to worry about it just being like too pink. Like it just works so well. It blends out super easily. It's super buttery. I just love the formula. I love the color. You really just cannot go wrong. I have mine in the just like original bronzer, and I find that the shade works really well for me. I know that they have since expanded their shade selection, but this one works really well for me year round. Okay, coming in at number 3, this is my favorite bronzer right now, but because it is so new to my collection, I ranked it at number 3. So if you've caught any of my like recent videos, you may know Fenty Sun Stalker bronzer. I have mine in the shade Into Sun, and this might end up being a little bit too light for me in the summertime. I find it's the perfect shade for me right now as I'm super fair, but I feel like it's like a little bit on the lighter side. So I mean, maybe I'll just have to pick up a summer color, which would be fine with me. I have just fallen in love with this bronzer over the course of the last couple weeks. First of all, can we just like take a moment to appreciate the beautiful packaging? Like, I'm obsessed. But it just, again, is such a perfect formula. It blends out so easily. It's such a buttery, beautiful formula, and I just find the shade is phenomenal. It's just so perfect. This is another one that like you can build up, kind of like the NARS Laguna like sun wash bronzer. You can start out with like a super light wash of color, and you can build it up to whatever like intensity you want for that day. I'm telling you guys, you need to check out the Fenty bronzers. They are so good. Okay, coming in at number 2 is my Becca Sunlit bronzer, and I have mine in the shade Capri Coast. I was going back and forth on whether or not to put this one at number 2 or the Mira bronzer, because these two formulas are super similar, but I find that this one gives just like a hint of a sheen to the skin, and I just prefer the shade of this just a hair more to my Physicians Formula bronzer. This one is definitely coming on vacation with me. I'm a little bit nervous. I don't want it to like crack, but I'm also like afraid to repress this. But this is just such a beautiful bronzer. Again, it gives kind of a sheen, a little bit of a glow to the skin. It's not like a totally matte bronzer, in my opinion. Yeah, it's not, I don't know. I don't think it's a totally matte bronzer. In fact, if you look at it, it almost looks like it has like little micro flecks of glitter in it, but it doesn't come off glittery on the skin at all. This is another one I wear to work all the time. This is currently going in my 19 and 2019 project pan, and originally I didn't think like a good goal for me would be to completely finish this, although that was my goal. Now I like truly believe that that will happen, and it's possible, which is crazy to me to think I'll finish up a full-size bronzer. that would be insane. But when I finish this, I will definitely repurchase this because it is one of my favorite bronzers. Another bronzer I know I can always count on. It's always going to pull like a good color match for me. It's not going to be too orangey. It's not going to be like a wonky color. So love the Becca Sunlit bronzers. You cannot go wrong. And this is another one where, like, I mean, come on, I just love the packaging. Okay, and then coming in at number 1 is my Tantastic bronzer, and I kind of feel like a basic bitch for having this come in at number 1 because everyone raves about this, everyone talks about this, but you guys, it truly is just such a good bronzer. This is another one that I feel like is not universally flattering, but I feel like this is going to suit a wide variety of skin tones. It's going to work for a lot of different people. So that's another reason that I chose to put this where I did. This just has like, it's like the perfect like undertone. It's not like too cool tone, but it's not too warm toned, and it's just such a beautiful shade. I feel like I can wear this all year round, and this is another one where I feel like I can't get too heavy handed. Like, you can build this one up. It's pigmented. It's not like as light as some of the other bronzers that I have when you first put it on, but it's one that is super buildable, and it's just it's not as easy to go heavy handed. It definitely doesn't pull orange on me. I mean, come on. This is another one. The packaging is just so luxurious, so sleek, so like modern, and just truly beautiful. And then you get the big mirror. So another really nice one for travel, although I won't travel with this. I won't travel with this one because it costs $49, which is so expensive. That I just don't want to risk losing this, breaking this, anything like that, but it's such a good bronzer. Alright guys, and after that, that is me ranking my entire my entire bronzer collection, all 18 bronzers in my collection. You guys will have to let me know in the comments down below, what are some of your top favorite bronzers? Are there any that I don't currently have in my collection that you feel like I need? Are there bronzers out there that are better than some of the top ones I have in my collection? I definitely want to hear from you guys. Other than that, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I hope you consider doing so before you go, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye!